love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. Don't be scared. Just level up. Don't be scared. Back. I won't stop, I'ma fight until there's nothing left. It's so what? You're gonna be hurting bad, cause I've been to hell and back. You don't wanna make me mad, I stay strong. You will never see me crack. And if you get in my way, you're gonna feel the wrath. Gotta say it to my face while he's looking back. Mirror breaks after math, when I hate, I attack. I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. Don't be scared. Just level up. Don't be
It's finally here. Welcome, everybody. It's football day in America. It's me, Joey P. Joe Pisapia. Welcome to Fantasy Pros live stream. We are talking about the starts and the sits. We're taking your questions. We're talking about the Thursday night football game and a whole lot more. We are so happy to be here with real football happening tonight. Yes, we made it. We're here. Let's go. Big Pot Energy. My boy Andrew Erickson is super excited. He's got the Gabriel Davis jersey. You can see the sleeve. It's almost kind of putting its hand on his shoulder saying, everything's going to be all right. Football's finally here, Erickson. Let's go, baby.
Oh, baby. I am super hyped up. I was up before 5 a.m. because I couldn't sleep because I'm just so ready to get going to watch this football game tonight. Super excited. It's been ever since the Super Bowl. You know, I've been waiting for the season to start back up again, and finally it's here. It's like the offseason never started.
And we're going to get to Andrew's 5 starts and sits of the week. We're going to get to your questions. We're also going to talk a little bit about tonight's game too and some of the injuries that are going on. But before we do, I want to remind everybody also that if you want to dominate all your leagues, what you need to do is go to FantasyPros.com and check out my playbook. It's available only at Fantasy Pros. It'll help you with the waiver wire. It'll help you with the top players to add, who to start, who to sit. Plus, if things aren't going so well in a league, but you still want to set lineups, you can even turn on autopilot. Let's say you're going on vacation. That feature is there too for you to set your lineups and be a responsible fantasy player, even when you can't get to your lineups. And you can just use our experts and let them do all the work for you. All this is customizable. It's all there for you over at my playbook. So go check it out today at FantasyPros.com. It's also got the trade analyzer too if you're trying to make deals. So get your season started off on the right foot with all of our tools at FantasyPros.com and go check out my playbook today. I just loaded up all my teams. just in the last 24 hours. I had 2 more drafts last night. I got to upload those now too. So very exciting times. Go download the My Playbook app too for Apple or Android device, or just go sign up on fantasypros.com and go get her done. All right, Andrew, let's talk about the Thursday night football game tonight. The Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Rams are going to tangle. Very exciting here. We've got the Super Bowl champs against a team that certainly has Super Bowl aspirations. The number for this game is 52. Obviously, the over-under is something we always look at as fantasy managers. So seems like a lot of offense potentially in this game. How do you kind of see this one working out tonight in terms of fantasy?
I think there's going to be a lot of points. I think we're going to see a lot of guys deliver for you in your fantasy football lineups, starting with Cooper Kupp and some of these other Rams receivers. I think with the Rams specifically, with Van Jefferson being out of the lineup, you're going to see a very concentrated target share between Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson. This is going to be his first game with the best quarterback he's ever played with us in his entire freaking life in Matthew Stafford, who's going to be healthy for this game, and Tyler Higbee. Someone that we've kind of forgotten about in the tight end landscape, but Higbee last year was playing on every down, running a route on every drop back. And that's something that's really rare to find with a lot of these tight ends. So if you're hurting at tight end, I think Tyler Higbee's kind of an interesting guy to kind of keep an eye on. Allen Robinson, I think, is a strong wide receiver too, because I feel confident about the volume. I think going into this week, you really need to ask yourself when you're looking at start sit is, do you know what this player's role in their offense is going to be? Because there's a lot of question marks because it's brand new teams. We have new situations for a lot of players, but you're looking at this Rams passing attack and you see Allen Robinson is the number 2 there. Like, he's going to get a lot of targets tonight. So I like Allen Robinson as a strong start. And then on the Bills side, same type of thing. You have Diggs, you have Gabriel Davis now taking over a full-time role in the offense. We know Isaiah McKenzie is the starting slot wide receiver. He's healthy and he's ready to go. So there's a lot of guys you can get here, a lot of flex appeal with some deeper formats. So if you're dealing with some injuries with some guys, I think this is a good game to target for some relief.
Cam Akers is a player that a lot of people asking me questions about. Do I start him this week? Do I not? Where are you standing on the Cam Akers start sit window?
I mean, I'm starting Cam Akers. I have him ranked as my RB20. So there are a couple of guys that I would obviously play ahead of Cam Akers, but I go back to looking at what Sean McVay's done historically. I try to fade the coach speak and what they say because coaches say things all the time. John Lynch said that Trey Sermon was impressive at training camp, and then he got cut the next day. So clearly there's there's a disconnect sometimes between what coaches say and what actually transpires on the field. I've seen Darrell Henderson play, and I've seen Cam Akers play. And the Rams coaches have seen that play all year, all summer long. And I think Cam Akers is the better running back. I think that he's going to be the featured guy like we always see traditionally with this Rams offense. Now, how great will he be against a tough Bills run defense? Okay, that draws some questions. I don't know how efficient he's necessarily going to be, but what drives fantasy points at the running back position is volume. And every time Cam Akers has been healthy, he's gotten a ton of volume. 6 playoff games, averaged over 21 touches per game for the Los Angeles Rams. I'm expecting to be Cam Akers' backfield. And when quoted about asking about his health, he's like, in the expectations of the Rams backfield, he said, I'm healthy and you can expect a lot of touchdowns. And that makes sense, mathematically speaking, with the Rams in terms of touchdown regression. They were a team that scored the majority of their touchdowns through the air. And that's something that tends to regress year over year, especially based on Michelle and Darrell Henderson last year combined for the second most red zone touches. So if Cam Akers takes on that red zone role, he's going to be scoring touchdowns this year.
All right, we're going to sprinkle in some questions here all throughout the show. Let's hit a couple right here at the top. Panuch wants to know, Amon-Ra or Dameon Pierce in the flex here. So let's just call it half PPR just to be make no one happy at all. We just do that instead. So Amon-Ra or Pierce, who would you rather start?
I'm going to go with Amon-Ra. It goes back to, thinking about who do I feel more confident about and what their specific role is going to be. I know Dameon Pierce is going to be the starter for the Houston Texans, but they're also 8-point dogs. Like, if they fall behind, what's going to happen to Pierce? Is he on the field on third downs? Is he out on the field in passing situations? Like, we don't know. Like, there's a lot of bust potential with Dameon Pierce this week, whereas Amon-Ra, I like that game. I like that game environment. Eagles, Lions. I think we could see some points. And that's an environment you want receivers that are talented that have shown, hey, St. Brown, wide receiver 1 over the last 6 weeks of last year. So I'm going to go with St. Brown.
Make it 2 for 2. I'm going with Amon-Ra of those choices as well. Game script, a big deal for that one. Let's go to Cheyenne Perkins, who wants to know, half PPR flex, AJ Dillon, Brandon Ayuk or Christian Kirk. You and I have talked a little bit about Ayuk's upside potentially in this game against the Bears, but as much as I would normally look for the touchdown potential with an A.J. Dillon, Kirk is a fascinating choice too, just from the sheer target volume we saw him get in preseason. So this is a tough one, especially in the format. So in the half, A.J. Dillon, Ayuk, or Kirk, who would you start first?
I think I'm going to go with Kirk in this situation. I really
Mhm.
like the upside with him as the target leader in that Jaguars passing attack. It's a good matchup, at least on paper from last year. Washington's secondary was horrible last year. They were a
Yeah.
team we were picking on. And we only saw Kirk and Trevor Lawrence play for a little bit of time during the preseason, but during that time, Christian Kirk got peppered with targets. So I'm going to chase the volume there. I want to kind of see how Green Bay deploys AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones together. I think they'll both get a lot of work, but I think that AJ Dillon has to score for you to kind of pay off where Kirk can get there with a lot of receptions.
All right, let's hit one more. And by the way, for the record, I agree with you. I'm with Kirk as well, even in the half PPR against that Washington secondary. It's just not very good. Let's go to Jandco Outdoors, torn between Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford. Oh, what a tough time to be torn. It's fun to start a guy on Thursday Night Football and have someone ready to go. And I know there's been some injuries there. I know Poyer was dealing with an injury. We know Tre'Davious White's going to be out. Poyer is going to play. So I understand the upside of Stafford potentially, but Joe Burrow against the Steelers, I feel like that's where I'd be laying. How about you? Would you go Burrow or Stafford? Where would you go?
See, again, I'm trying to lean on a game environment. And I already talked about at the top of the show that I'm excited about this game tonight. Not as much excited about the Steelers and Bengals, a kind of AFC North divisional black and blue type of game where, the Bengals could come out just run the football. Like, that's what they did last year against the Steelers. Very effective. You have
Mhm.
Joe Burrow coming off of the appendix removal. Like, are they going to really want him to drop back 40 times against a fierce Steelers pass rush? That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Whereas Matthew Stafford, hey, he's been injected. His elbow is good to go. He's ready to come out firing. I think I'm actually going to go with Matthew Stafford here.
Our producer Chris actually gave me a few injections before the show today. He didn't tell me what was in them. He just said, "This is good for you. Just go take this. You'll be better than usual." He also called me impressive, which again, I can only assume that means good things from what you told me before about John Lynch. We'll find out. Let's talk about some of the injuries going on in the NFL. We'll take them kind of one at a time here. Chris Godwin listed as a full participant on Wednesday with this knee. I know a lot of people are a little, are not a little, but a lot concerned about the potential of Godwin's impact on Sunday Night Football. Is Godwin a guy that you feel comfortable starting, or would you rather kind of sit back and if you have anybody else in that wide receiver 3-4 range that you feel good about their matchup, would you play them over Godwin?
Well, also just an update too from today.
Mhm.
So he was not at practice today during the portion open to the media. So that's just another thing to. So it's still really up in the air of
Right.
Chris Godwin's availability. I think that's kind of like the main point here is like we still do not know if he's going to play, and he's playing in the later game. Look, I think that based on where you drafted him, probably like in the fifth or sixth round, maybe you're drafting him probably as like a flex guy or your wide receiver 3. I think you could probably just not have to play Chris Godwin. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think you need to force the narrative. You have a lot of mouths to feed in this Bucks offense. Like, there's a lot of different guys, and if Chris Godwin's not 100%, okay, is he then splitting snaps with say Julio Jones? Who doesn't necessarily project to play a full snap role and makes sense. Okay, let's get Godwin up to speed. Let's have him split with Julio. We'll have Gage and Mike Evans be the rotating receivers, and we'll use the tight ends using Leonard Fournette. I mean, I don't think you need to be a hero in week 1. Like, you don't need to be a hero. Like, let Godwin prove to you that he's healthy and good to go, and
Right.
then play him
Yeah,
next
I'm with
week.
you. George Kittle, dealing with a groin injury on Monday, did not practice Wednesday. I feel like this is here we go again with George Kittle, right? All the nicks and the bruises and the bumps and the injuries that come with George Kittle. But if he is going to play, it's hard to take him out because tight end is so tough to replace that potential. But if he's out, what does this do to the potential upside of guys like Debo and guys like Ayuk in this game?
Yeah, it will make my sit call on Brandon Ayuk look very foolish if George Kittle ends up not
Well,
playing in
that's
this
why we're here.
game.
We're talking these things
Yes.
out today. That's what we're doing.
Because that's the big thing. I am concerned about 3 guys really eating in this offense with Trey Lance if we're going to see a big running attack, especially in a very low under over game against the Chicago Bears. Like, we could see a lot of, quarterbacks getting sacked and running around and just kind of like a little bit of an ugly game based on the game total. So, not a great offensive environment for fireworks, but yeah, you can't take Kittle out of your lineup if he's going to play. So I would be prepared just in case to have a backup. No, there are a couple. There are a lot of tight ends on the waiver wire that I do like, whether it's a Gerald Everett, an Irv Smith. Like, there are options out there, so you can pivot. So I would go till the final hour with George Kittle because If you look at Matt Eberflus's defense last year, where he's with the Colts, they got destroyed by tight ends.
Sure
So
did.
bringing over a similar scheme to the Chicago Bears defense that, let's be honest, like does not feature a lot of playmakers.
Mhm.
I think that George Kittle, if he's healthy, like he could have a boom game. So maybe he's someone to buy low on in like a DFS type of setting where people are going to just fade him because he's like, oh, he's banged up. When it's like none of us saw this groin injury. Like maybe it was just a slight pull here or there because George Kittle is a monster. So
On the good news front, Juju Smith-Schuster practicing in full Wednesday, so that's a positive. Zach Ertz was not seen at practice Thursday. We'll get to him in a second, but the good news also for Jalen Waddle, he logged another practice Thursday. So things looking good for Waddle and Juju Smith-Schuster. And again, if you want to stay up to date with the latest and what's going on, make sure you download the Fantasy Pros News Desk app. You can stay on top of all the injuries, all the ins and outs of what's going on in fantasy football at all times. So download that app right away. But Zach Ertz, another tight end to be worried about. This one I'm more apt to replace quicker and kind of gauge myself, right? Some of the guys you just talked about are probably on the waiver wire. Look, when you're downgrading from Kittle, it's a huge downgrade in your lineup, no matter what you end up doing. But with Ertz, I think I'd rather be safe than sorry, if that makes sense.
yeah, I think that I don't think Ertz is going to play. I mean, he
Mm.
was listed as day to day to start the week, and day to day is usually kind of like actually means week to week, and then week to week usually means like you're going to miss a month. Like that's kind of how the coaching, and when you kind of parse through the coach speak, is basically what it really means. They're always more optimistic than realistic in these situations. So if you have Ertz, I know I have Ertz in a bunch of different places. He's a tight end that I was targeting. Like I'm looking at the waiver wire, I'm tracking to see, okay, who can I pick up here once I can put Zach Ertz in my IR spot once he's ultimately ruled out, which I think will happen sooner rather than later. So Gerald Everett, Irv Smith, Albert Okwebunam, like these are guys that are on a lot of waiver wires. Like David Njoku, if he's somehow still hanging around some of your waiver wires, like
Mhm.
he's a name that I have ranked as a top 10 tight end this week. I think David Njoku could lead the team in targets as Jacoby Brissett is under center. Jacoby Brissett loves targeting tight ends. Like we know that. So those are some tight end names I would try to prepare for if you have Zach Ertz.
All right. Before we prepare for some of the starts and sits of the week, let's get to some more of your questions. Gabe Monday wants to know on a Friday coming up here, football. We have Breece Hall or Tony Pollard he's got to figure out here. So you tell me, Breece Hall or Tony Pollard, who would you rather start?
Probably gonna go with Tony Pollard. I
Mhm.
don't want to start Breece Hall this week. Just too many question marks about what his role is going to be in Week 1. Just brutal matchup. Like the Jets against the Ravens, Joe. It's just not a good spot
Talked
where
about on stages last night. We
even
had a big discussion about this Jet fan. God bless him. He was on there talking about going to the game. Can I start Brees Hall? And I forget who the guy was we were talking about. I was like, no, why would you ruin your Sunday twice?
yes,
That's what
yeah,
I wanted. Why would you do this to yourself? You at least can get a win in fantasy, if not a win in real life.
yeah. I mean, I think Brees Hall is a great long term investment, and he's going to be someone I'm going to guarantee going to be talking about as like a buy low candidate
100%.
because this game is just not setting up for him to be successful if he's splitting any type of touches with Michael Carter. It'd be different if we knew that he was going to get all the work, then you could rely on the volume. But if it's a 50-50 split with Michael Carter to open the year, then you just can't rely on Brees Hall.
Kirk Johansson wants to know Damian Harris, Melvin Gordon, or Miles Sanders in the full PPR. With Sanders' health, I think this is a tough sell for me on him. To me, this is more Damian Harris or Melvin Gordon, both guys who, certainly don't have the entire backfield to themselves. I would agree. How do you feel about Kirk's dilemma here? Are you taking Sanders out of this equation at all? And if so, is it Harris or Gordon?
No, I mean, from what I read about Miles Sanders recently, that he's going to be good to go, and they've just been holding him out just to make sure that he's ready for Week 1. And I'm not going to overthink this. Like Miles Sanders is running behind an elite offensive line. They're playing the Detroit Lions. Like the last time
Mhm.
the Eagles played the Lions, they won by over 40 points. Like this line can overwhelm the Detroit Lions defense, and Miles Sanders is just super efficient with the ball in his hand. So I'm going to roll with Sanders here.
Okay, let's do another one. Jay, New York. Hey guys, in full PPR, another Miles Sanders question. Miles Sanders or Josh Jacobs?
Miles Sanders.
Okay, same reasoning there. How about Joseph Navarro, Damian Pierce, or Kareem Hunt in the half point PPR?
In this case, I'm going to go with Dameon Pierce. I want to take the shot
Mhm.
on the potential volume that he will get. I think that he'll get more touches overall than Kareem Hunt. I mean, the Browns offense, Kareem Hunt's kind of like the floor play here, where he's going to get a
Right.
decent amount of volume, but again, it's just another ugly game. It's like, you don't want, I got to get pieces of Browns and Panthers. Like that's not the way you should be thinking about it, where Dameon Pierce, I think he could get north of 20 touches in this game. Maybe they're mostly rushing attempts, but I think I'd rather lean on that than go with Kareem Hunt.
If it was full, I could see Kareem Hunt, but in the
Yep.
half, I think you want the guy that's kind of looking like the
I mean,
number one.
yeah, he could like break off a big run too. Like that's the thing.
Right.
Like that's part of his skill set is
Sure.
that he's an explosive runner. So yeah, Pierce for me.
All right, Julian Craig, are we worried about Breece Hall yet? I think we've kind of touched on that one. I think the answer is we're worried about him, but once again, I think if you didn't get pieces of Breece Hall and you liked Breece Hall in drafts, like Andrew said, this is the time to lay in the weeds for a week or two
Mhm.
and then pounce with a low ball trade offer or at least a fair trade off or something like that and make it work. Brian Tracy wants to know Brandon Cooks or Gabriel Davis. I'm going Gabriel Davis here. I'm sorry. I'm just going this route. We both said there should be points in this game. It's not that I don't like Brandon Cooks. I think he's a perfectly fine start, but I think Gabriel Davis is the guy that I prefer, especially with that quarterback, especially with the opportunities being, I would think, more for Gabriel Davis than necessarily what Davis Mills can get out of Brandon Cooks. What are your thoughts, though, Andrew?
Yep, I got. I think Brandon Cooks is a good start, but I
Yeah,
have Gabriel Davis one spot
it's
ahead,
better.
so it's better.
Only one? I don't know. I don't know. That jersey behind you might have something different to say about it. All right, let's pivot here for a moment. Let's talk about some of the guys that Andrew's excited about starting. And let's talk about a guy who's got the backfield now sort of, kind of, maybe to himself in Washington, Antonio Gibson. You'll feel good about rolling him out this week. Tell me why.
I mean, I think the fact that people have not just like adjusted their priors because we basically wrote off Antonio Gibson all year long, and now it's like, well, Brian Robinson's not going to play. So it's back to a two-man backfield, which as fantasy managers, okay, like we can work with this. And it's not a game where you're projecting Washington to be trailing. It'd be different. It's like, oh, if they're playing this high-powered offense, like they're going to be behind, McKissick's going to get all the work. That's not the case here. Like they're playing Jacksonville, and basically a pseudo pick'em game essentially with a spread of 3 points based on who's the home team. So I think that Washington can overwhelm the Jaguars defensive line. I'm not afraid of their interior. Now, obviously adding Trayvon Walker is going to help that, but still Jacksonville needs to prove to me that they can stop the run. And I don't think based on the personnel that they had and the upgrades they've made during this offseason that they're going to be able to do that. I think Washington's offensive line is better. And Antonio Gibson is still a good running back. Like he's an explosive young running back. He can catch passes on early downs. So I'm not going to overthink this. And I know that Antonio Gibson was super polarizing all summer, but just like Jaguars, good running back. I'm going to go with Gibson here.
Okay. Miles Sanders is also on your list as well. What do you say to the people who are still really concerned? I know you made a really good point about the offensive line. You made a good point referring to last time they played the Detroit Lions. I get all that. But what do you make of the people that said, I can't get past that touchdown total of last year? Or should I say the lack thereof? That sticks in a lot of people's craw and a lot of people's minds. So how do you shake them off of that when it comes to Miles Sanders in week one?
Well, it's one thing that's usually it's not sustainable. Like the fact that he rushed for some X amount of yards on so many carries and didn't score, that's not something that should repeat. Like he's due for touchdown regression. Now, telling me to start him as my, RB20, I can't guarantee you that he's going to get, 2 touchdowns in this game. But if the Eagles are scoring a lot of points and he's touching the ball a lot, odds are now working more favorably that he will end up finding the end zone at some point eventually. So, yes, his receiving work is not, excellent. You don't expect that really from any of the Eagles running backs just based on the way that Jalen Hurts operates as a mobile quarterback. But I mean, if Miles Sanders is going to be ripping off like 6 and 8 and 10-yard runs left and right, I mean, chances are something good is probably going to happen. So I'm going to go with Sanders here. And he's healthy. If he's playing an upright, like you want to take advantage of these favorable matchups
Right when you have
now
him.
before. Exactly. Like you drafted him probably in the 8th or 9th round. Like this is a spot where you want to be excited to start Sanders because there are going to be plenty of times throughout the year where you're not going to be able to start him.
That's fair. Tell me this, Andrew Erickson. Would you rather start Antonio Gibson or Miles Sanders for somebody who might have that dilemma?
I would go with Antonio Gibson if I had to pick between the
Me
two
too.
guys. I think
Agree.
Gibson has more. We know he has a red zone role. Like we've seen it before with him scoring touchdowns, and he's a better pass catcher.
Agreed. All right, let's go on to the next guy on your list. It's a Jet, believe it or not. Now, the secondary for Baltimore is very good, Andrew, and very deep, but you still like Elijah Moore. Tell us why.
Yeah, it goes back to volume. Going back
Mhm.
to Elijah Moore had played one game with Joe Flacco last year, and he went off.
He did.
He had a great performance, and it was against a tough defense, against the Miami Dolphins, a
Well,
really
Flacco
good
also still
secondary.
Flacco was a guy that could get up in his sleep and throw a 50-yard pass like that. He always had the cannon. It was just a matter of, can anyone catch it? Is it in the right place? That's always been the problem with Joe Flacco. Let's be honest. It's never arm strength. That was
Right.
never his problem.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where, with Zach Wilson under center, you're kind of like, I don't know, like against the Ravens, he's trying to make sure that he's like the future guy. Where Joe Flacco's like, whatever. Like the dude can come in and just go out and sling it. Like he has nothing to lose. Like he can just kind of go, like basically can be maybe this year's type of Ryan Fitzpatrick where he's fueling a Devontae Parker. It's like, whatever. Joe Flacco's like, I'm going to go out. I'm just going to sling it to Elijah Moore. Joe Flacco in his games last year, this was from Graham Barfield, 31% target share for Elijah Moore in the 2 games that Joe Flacco played. He only played in 1 game for a little bit, but then in the second game, playing the full game, Elijah Moore was his guy. Like that's who he was targeting. So of all the Jets players, that's the only guy I'm going to start is Elijah Moore.
All right, we're going to get to some more of your questions. And of course, we're also going to get to some more of Andrew's starts of the week. But before we do, I want to remind everybody we're giving away free stuff. So if you haven't already, this is the opportunity to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, youtube.com/FantasyPros. You're watching us right now. So you might as well subscribe if you haven't. Click that little bell till it goes ding, because when you do and you become a subscriber and you comment on this very video, you will be entered to win a Keenan Allen jersey thanks to our good pals at pristineauction.com, which is the coolest place to get all of your sports memorabilia swag. Where I got this amazing Tom Brady thing in my office here. It's so cool. All the Super Bowl pins, and it's got his jersey and might have a bottle of sweat. I don't know. It's really cool. That's all I know. And I got it from Pristine Auction, and the Keenan Allen jersey we're giving away. So you got to be a subscriber. You got to be a bell clicker. And of course, you've also got to make a comment here on the chat and ask a question. That's it. That's all you got to do. Let's get to some more of your questions here. Here's one, which is Jelani Woods. Is he worth a pickup in a 10 to 12 team league? And that's from Gossin. What do you think about that?
No, I don't think
Let's not spend too much time on that one. All right, let's go Big Ben. Higgins or Zeke this week? Who do you want to play? You mentioned about maybe Cincinnati being more of a slog, maybe more of a run heavy attack, but Zeke?
No,
what do you think?
Zeke. Not if Zeke was
Tampa?
playing like the Lions, then maybe. But Zeke is playing the Buccaneers,
right? So I'm saying Higgins, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There we go. Here's another one from Phil Farina. Phil Farina wants to know Davis or Waddle. This one's a tricky one here. 2 guys who certainly have potential for big games here. So Waddle or Davis, you can only start one. Who is it?
I'm probably going to go with Gabriel Davis. I think we want to make sure that Waddle is 100% healthy, coming off of what he was dealing with during the offseason. Right. And even though I was fading Tyreek Hill during the draft season, I think Tyreek Hill could have a massive game against the Patriots. His speed versus the Patriots, their lack of speed on defense. I think that the Dolphins are going to feature their new toy and get him a lot of work early on.
This one's complicated. Hector Davis, Jerry Jeudy, or Hollywood Brown. Now, certainly Brown has a good matchup in theory when you're talking about those Kansas City corners. Also, when you're talking about maybe the potential of Zach Ertz being out, maybe even more target share going his way, or Jerry Jeudy against Seattle. Also a good matchup. So how do you break this one down between these 2 guys, Jeudy or Brown?
I think for me, it's actually not that close. I have Marquise Brown as a top 10 wide receiver this week. I love Marquise Brown.
Top 10.
I mean, he's
shown
that
lolly.
He can have,
that is hot, baby.
He's commanded a high target share in offenses before. So I think that he will command a high target share in this offense. I don't think that anyone in the Chiefs' defensive secondary is going to be able to stop him. He's fast, and he's got a good the deep ball connection, I think, with Kyler Murray is going to be much better than it was with Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray, who just never really seen on the same page when they were going deep, where now Kyler Murray, I think he's a better deep ball thrower than Lamar Jackson, in my opinion. I think it's going to suit Marquise Brown's skill set a little bit more. And again, going back to these acquisitions that teams did during the offseason, like they want to prove to everyone that they were right about going out and getting their guy. So whether it's Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, like these guys are going to get peppered with targets in week 1 because teams want to show like, hey, we were right by going after this guy, and they're going to get a lot of work. So I think Marquise Brown falls in that category. I like the matchup. I like the game environment in a dome against the Chiefs, high scoring affair. I'm going to go with that matchup.
Okay, let's go to the next one here. Jonathan Martin, who do I flex? Rondell Moore, Chris Olave, or Dameon Harris?
I like Chris Olave. Chris Olave to me is kind of like that sneaky flex upside play this week. Michael Thomas is coming back off of the long layoff and the injury, but he could get matched up with AJ Terrell, one of the better corners in the league for the Falcons. And what tends to happen is when one wide receiver or cornerback gets like locked up, then the other guys just kind of feast and have these big games. Olave, what he was known for coming in from the draft was how ready he was, how NFL ready he was.
Right.
So I really think if we're looking at who could have immediate impact from day one as these rookie receivers, Olave kind of fits the bill.
I will say this: if Ertz is out, I think Rondell Moore, who's trending health wise, it seems like in a better direction, I think would be a very viable option there. What Andrew's saying is right. I'm just a little worried. The Falcons corners are better than people realize. I actually talked about that last night on the IDP show. Let's go to one more question. We'll go back to your starts. Matt Ellis wants to know half PPR need one. Elijah Moore, AJ Dillon, or Rashad Penny. So Andrew, is it Moore, Dillon, or Penny for you?
In that case, in the half PPR, I would go with AJ Dillon.
Right. Just looking for the score. Fair enough. All right. Let's get back to Andrew starts and sits. Let's go to Christian Kirk, a guy that we're both very excited about. I've got him pretty high in my ranks this week, and I feel very good about him against that Commander secondary. So, Andrew, you agree with this one, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think Christian Kirk just locked and loaded to be the target leader for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Good
Mhm.
matchup against Washington. I don't think you'd overthink this one. I know that you probably didn't have to draft him as like a startable guy, but when you have him and it's a favorable matchup in a pass heavy offense that could maybe go back and forth a little bit between the Jaguars and Washington, a lot of question marks on defense. You can see the offenses move the ball a little bit. So I like Kirk here.
I've been getting a ton of questions about this guy too. We talked about him on stages on our Discord last night too. Darnell Mooney. A lot of people afraid because that San Francisco defense and whether or not we're going to see a lot of guys breaking through that offensive line and a lot of sacks potentially of Justin Fields. I don't know, but certainly you would think there's the game script where they're behind and they're trying to throw the football more at least. So does that make Darnell Mooney a guy that you're excited to start this week?
Yeah, this could be a scenario where you don't want to actually watch the game, like when how Mooney gets these catches and yards because they could all come in like the fourth quarter. But the guy has got alpha usage last year. He was top 5 in route participation, top 8 in target share. The Bears made no moves to the wide receiver position that I think are noteworthy, where we're going to see a change of who's going to get the targets in this offense. Now, the one advantage at least that the Bears have, Justin Fields is going to be running for his life, but at least he can make plays, running around. Like he can buy time to then get the ball down to Darnell Mooney. So yeah, Justin Fields could get sacked like 6 or 7 times, but that happened last year too. And in those games, still Darnell Mooney was able to get it done. So I still like Mooney just because of how high of a target share he's going to have in this offense.
All right, so those are the guys that Andrew feels good about. Let's talk about some of the guys we're going to sit. But before we do, let's get to a question from some of our favorite friends here, Fantasy Pros. Compton Ace wants to know 2 flex out of this group, half PPR, Dubs. Dobbs. Ugh, it's going to take a while for me because I started one way and then I had to change it. Dobbs, Sky, Hardman, Hunt, Henderson need 2. So certainly Hunt, I think looks like a guy that you might feel good about. But who's the other one from this grouping that you feel good in half PPR? You got Romeo Dobbs, you've got Sky Moore, Mecole Hardman. So whichever one you pick, you're probably going to be wrong. Hunt and Henderson.
Yeah, no, that definitely it's definitely not Sky because he's still like really kind of buried on the depth chart. So I don't see him having like a massive role at least in week 1. I mean, he's gonna be. I'd rather start Hardman this week. Like if I had to pick one of those
I
two
agree. I'd
receivers.
rather start Hardman this week in
Yeah.
particular too.
Hunt is probably the safest play. What I'm looking at, okay, like projectable volume. Like Henderson is just a wild card. Like I don't know what his role
Well,
is going to
why not
be.
play for the touchdown with Dobbs, right? That's kind of where I'm going.
I mean, if Lazard doesn't play, then I feel much better about Dobbs. I
That's
would
fair.
definitely want to wait. So I wouldn't want to have to play Henderson tonight and just kind of like lock in. Okay, no, I don't get the option because you get more information if you
Right. I don't think
wait.
you have to play Henderson tonight.
Yeah.
I think you have Dobbs and Hardman. You have 2 guys that are kind of in the like you're just playing for the touchdown. That's what you're looking for. And you've got 2 good quarterbacks there. And you're 100% right, Andrew. If for some reason Lazard does not play, then you're in a good situation there with Dobbs, or a better one at least.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Let's get to another one too from Rockout. Second flex, looking Singletary, Olave, MVS in the full PPR. So you want to go with the running back, Chris Olave, or MVS in the full PPR?
I love MVS this week. I think that he's set up really well. I don't think the Arizona Cardinals perimeter cornerbacks are any good. And I think that, Patrick Mahomes talked about this. He literally came out and said, look, it's going to be a different guy every week. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
picking MVS as my guy this week, and then we'll see how it rolls out.
It's new Drew Brees. Like every week it was, was Marquise Colston, then it was Devery Henderson, and then it was Lance Moore. Get ready, everybody. It's going to be a frustrating time on the waiver wire when it comes to Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers. Jawan wants to know, pick one. Elijah Moore, Chase Edmonds, Ayuk. What do you think about those 3 options in the full PPR?
Oh, full PPR, I would go Chase Edmonds. Yeah, I think that he's set up really well. And if he gets the red zone work, that's on top of the receptions he'll get against the Patriots if they're playing with a positive game script. I think Edmonds is set up really well this week, so I'll go with him.
I love this. People already asking trade questions too. Terry R wants to know trade Gabe for St. Brown and then start Fournette or Swift. So let's start with the running backs. Who would you start first, Fournette or Swift?
I'm going to start with Fournette. I just think
Okay.
good game environment for him. And then I would not
Really?
trade Gabe
Wow.
for St. Brown.
I would not trade Gabe for St. Brown, but I would start Swift over Fournette. Don't ask me why. I just feel
Ask me
like
why.
if we paid all that like if you're drafting a guy ahead of Leonard Fournette, which we all were, right? Then why would I at any point sit him for a guy that
I'm trying to figure
picked
out
after?
why this person can't start both of them.
Well,
Wh-
some people get in these situations where they have, like keepers, like maybe he's got a keeper of Saquon Barkley or a keeper of, Alvin Kamara or something like that. He's like, look, I've already locked that guy in. I want this guy to play. So then you've only got
All
a
right.
couple other spots.
All right. Well, then
It
I'm
seems like a
changing my
keeper
answer
situation.
then because I think I have Fournette ranked ahead of Swift, but if I drafted Swift, I'm not going to bench him. And
But you
it's
can't
almost like,
bench DeAndre Swift. He was your
yeah,
first or second round pick. I mean,
yeah.
it's
So,
absurd. Come
yeah.
on. Come on.
It
All
should
right,
be
let's
like,
get
who should you bench? And that should have been the question. That would be like, oh, yeah, bench Fournette. He's dusty. Go with
these
Swift.
dusty. I mean, look, Fournette's still useful.
Right.
But
That's what I
I
mean.
mean, how are we gonna if we all think that Swift could be a guy who's gonna finish as a top 5 back potentially, he's gotta be a start every week. Like you can't go taking him out. No matter how much you might believe in some of the remakes of this Philadelphia Eagles defense, which I do. Like I love big Jordan Davis in front. Like I love some of the things they did in the offseason in the draft. It's very exciting. I get it. But it's not like DeAndre Swift doesn't catch the football. It's not like you can't get him out there in space. I don't expect him to necessarily run between the tackles 100 times. All right, let's get to some of the guys you're not enthusiastic about. Let's start at home here with one of our Patriot guys. I mean, he's not at home. He's in Miami. But for our homers here on the podcast today, Dameon Harris is on the list of sits. Why is that against Miami?
I'm concerned about if the Patriots fall behind in this game, who is actually in the backfield, seeing snaps. And last year in the situation, you saw Brandon Bolden get involved a lot. Dameon Harris is not projecting to really have this massive receiving role in this backfield. It's really been Ramondre Stevenson. Like that's been the guy that they've been talking up as being the more featured receiver. So I think he's actually going to get more work in this particular matchup. Last year in Miami, Dameon Harris was under 40 rushing yards. And I'm just concerned that if they're not scoring a lot of touchdowns, I'm not really excited about the Patriots offense in general against Miami in
Mhm.
Miami. So I think Dameon Harris could get game scripted out and you're just kind of like left holding the bag.
Yeah, we game scripted Derek Brown out of this show today. He and I are going to do a BP show later in the afternoon, though. So we game scripted Andrew out of that one. So if you want, go subscribe to Betting Pros also because we got more stuff going on for Thursday night football, Monday night football live streams. We're full service here. Fantasy Pros is growing. So go check out the BP stuff too. That's at 3:30 today. Actually, that's where we're gonna be doing that. All right, give me another guy here. Let's talk about another running back. Breece Hall is another one of your sits. You kind of touched on it earlier. Now's your chance to expand on all the reasons why Breece Hall is a little bit more dangerous than people realize.
Yeah, it's a really bad matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. They're a defense that we picked on last year, but that's because they were all hurt. They're not all hurt anymore. They are back in full, and they have a lot of talent across the roster from the secondary to the defensive line. You have the concern about the Jets playing from behind. Which running back is going to be on the field catching passes? Michael Carter showed us that he could do that last year. Breece Hall showed at the college level that he could do it. But which guy is going to get it? And then you factor in Joe Flacco, who didn't check the ball down to running backs. So there's a lot of question marks about how many touches are going to be distributed through this backfield. And without touchdown upside, it's a situation to avoid. And I think that Breece Hall, look, it's okay if you drafted him in the 4th or 5th round and you sit him because he's still going to be good down the stretch. But this is a 1 week thing. And it's like this week, he's probably not going to be good. And that's okay. Like, don't lose faith in Breece Hall long term and be aggressive trying to buy low on him next week.
One tight end I've got 0 shares of because I've lost faith of him in this new system is Mike Gesicki of the Miami Dolphins. So he is on your sit list as well this week. I feel like he's going to be a sit list guy for many, many weeks to come. How do you feel? I don't want to get presumptuous and say he's this year's Andrew Erickson version of Robert Tunyon, but it might start to come to that a little sooner than later, maybe.
I mean, unless he gets traded to a different team, like that's kind of what the situation we're looking at
Oof.
here with Gesicki. So Gesicki has never had more than 34 receiving yards in a single game against the Patriots in his career. He's been on the Dolphins for 3 years now. And that's when he was actually playing a slot receiver role. So he actually had a really good role in those games, and he still wasn't putting up numbers. And now you're factoring in that he's blocking more than ever. He's splitting snaps with Durham Smythe, who's may even play ahead of him if they're playing with a positive game script and they're running the football more. So Gesicki, I think in ECR, he was around like tight end 18. So hopefully you didn't draft him and you don't need to start him. But don't look at him as, oh, Mike Gesicki's on the waiver wire. I need someone to fill in for Zach Ertz or another injury for George Kittle. That's not the guy you want. Like, you do not want to pick up Mike Gesicki for this week, for next week. Yes, he'll be this year's Robert Tonyan and be a guy that will be always on my sit list.
All right, let's do another one here real quick. Let's talk about Amari Cooper. He might be the one in Cleveland, but he doesn't seem to be the one in your heart this week in week 1 against Carolina.
I think JC Horn is a excellent cornerback. I know we only
You
saw
are
him for a little
correct.
bit. We only saw him for a little bit last year, but I think that this dude's going to lock up Amari Cooper. And with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback in a run-heavy offense, and again, another ugly game where, Amari Cooper splits when you play outdoors versus indoors are not very good. I need to see Amari Cooper do something with Brissett before I have faith in starting him. Like, showed me that you can produce with a much worse quarterback than you've had, really, for your entire career. Like, he had Dak last year and he was barely a wide receiver too. And he was playing in a dome. Like, it was like pristine conditions for him. And now you're putting him outside. I got concerns about Cooper. He needs to prove it to me first.
Fair enough. Last one here, Michael Thomas. Now, this is another guy, too, that people drafted. They're very excited about. You're pumping the brakes. And I understand why, because we did touch on it earlier. Those Atlanta corners are much better than people realize. I don't think they got enough attention last year because, well, they played for the Falcons, and the Falcons didn't get a lot of, I would say, positive publicity last year, Andrew.
I would agree with that. Usually it's just 28-3 jokes when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons.
Not a very positive situation for them. No.
No.
Okay. No.
So with Michael Thomas, I think that I have him in a couple spots, and I just want him to show me that he's healthy. Like, that's a victory for me. If he goes out, has 100 yards, catches a touchdown, I'm like, great. Like, I got Michael Thomas back. Like, he'll be a wide receiver 1 for the rest of the year. Like, I feel great about it. But at the risk of him going out and he's on a limited snap share. We talked about, you mentioned the corners, Casey Hayward, AJ Terrell for the Falcons. Those are 2 really solid corners. So new offense, new quarterback, different competition for targets. Like, there's a lot of different factors than when Michael Thomas was last on the field at an elite level. So I think it's okay to ask the question and be hesitant about Michael Thomas and having him show me that he is healthy and ready to go first before I confidently put him in a lineup. There's no one on earth that can possibly say with confidence, like, oh yeah, I feel great about Michael Thomas this week. Like, super confident. No, it's a very scary pick to make. And I just think you can give it a week off and see what he does and then make the adjustments into next week.
It's very interesting you said that because yesterday on the very podcast we did, Pat Fitzmaurice was talking about being in the show me state when it comes to Michael Thomas. He wants to see it first. Exactly what Andrew's saying. Rich Rebar kind of talked about that as well. If you missed it, go check out yesterday's podcast because they all talked about it. So I understand starting Michael Thomas if you don't have better options, but if you do, maybe you sit and wait a week and see what's going on and see how he is reacclimating himself to playing in the NFL because it's been 2 years almost now. All right, 5 minutes of fury here. Let's go, Andrew. Let's go run through some more of these questions. Connor Brennan wants to know, how does Erickson feel about Juju in the PPR format this year? He's hearing mixed things, Connor. He wants the Andrew Erickson take.
I'm pretty lukewarm on Juju, honestly. I'm not over bearish on, like, oh, he's going to be like this year's Cooper Kupp. I've seen that, kind of flooded around a little bit where he could recapture some of the elite play he had in Pittsburgh. I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier when we were talking about Marquez Valdes-Scantling or Sky Moore and McCole Hardman. It's like, yeah, Juju's going to have some good weeks, but is he going to always be the clear front runner in the Chiefs offense as a wide receiver 1? Like, no. I think that he'll be just another kind of wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 guy that you just try to play matchups with. He obviously plays in a good offense, so that will inherently lead him to spiked weeks, but I just found myself not drafting him as much because he was always the most expensive Chief. I could get MVS later. I get Sky Moore later. I could get McCole Hardman later. And I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be like they all kind of like did the same.
I told you. Look, I keep using this analogy. I'm going to be on it for a while until everybody kind of gets it. Drew Brees, Saints, 5,000 yards, MVPs, glorious for Patrick Mahomes, glorious for Drew Brees. It's going to drive you crazy if you own any of these guys because you just don't know who and when or how many weeks. All right. Let's rapid these bad boys here. Mooney or Aaron Jones at the flex from Francisco. Who would you rather have?
I go Aaron Jones.
All right. Jaden wants to know AJ Brown or T Higgins. Got to go AJ, right? All
AJB
right.
baby.
2 for 2 on that one. Here, A1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the same combination I have on my luggage. CEH or AJ Dillon. Who would you rather have?
AJ Dillon for me.
AJ Dillon agree. They're free 3 for 3 here. We're on a roll. Because Smoke wants to know DJ Moore or Robert Woods full PPR.
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore. Okay. Irv Smith or David Njoku in the half for Andrew R.
David Njoku.
Agreed. Look at us. I love it when we all are together. The Modern Finance wants to know Jerry Judy, Juju, or A-Rob. You get to pick 2 this time. Judy, Juju, or A-Rob.
I'm going to go with A-Rob and Judy.
All right. Look at us. We're all no disagreement so far. All right. This one, Dominic Guzzetti, who we love Dominic. He's one of our favorite listeners here on the show. Great on Twitter, too. Needs some help, please. Half PPR decision between Hunt, Pollard, or Renfro in the flex. It's a half PPR, Hunt, Pollard, or Renfro. Man, Renfro, I think, could have a big game this week. What do you think?
Yeah, the fact that you said that, I was like, these guys are like all the same for me. Like I don't lean in either way, so I'll go with you. That if you feel I've got feeling about Renfro, look, Renfro's gonna have big weeks. Like it's just trying to project which one.
I'm trying to project through total. Like I think the Raiders have the best chance, especially like JC Jackson is going to be out. So like, you have less corners to really worry about. You got Devontae Adams going to get a ton of attention. And if Darren Waller, I mean, even if he's playing, we know he's not really healthy. To me, this is going to be one of those sneaky Hunter Renfro games. And people are going to go, oh yeah, there's Hunter Renfro with his, 16 points again, driving people crazy.
No,
I love
agree.
it.
Let's go
I
with
love
Renfro.
it. All right. Terry R. Actually, I think we got to that one. Let's try to skip to a couple other ones here. We got some more of our good friends want to know. How about this one? Seek Gold, which I always try to. Bateman, Michael Thomas, or Rashad Penny. That's an intriguing one.
It's between Bateman and Penny for me, and I probably would go with Rashad Bateman just because. I mean, what do you think, Joe? Like, if are you assuming Kenneth Walker's not going to play, and does that change?
I'm assuming Kenneth Walker is not going to get a lot of attention no matter what this week.
Okay,
like
so if he's playing, it doesn't. Really matter.
Any core injuries that you have are really tricky. Whether it be sports hernia, whether it be core muscle, like all those are super tricky injuries historically. Penny, to me, I think at least has the best chance to get in the end zone. I feel like of this group.
He's got volume too on his side.
Yeah, so. Like they're going to try to, I feel like if you're the Seattle Seahawks, you want to bring them down to your, like there's going to be a lot of, everyone's going to be very excited. So the best game plan is, look, let's run the football. Let's take a little air out of this whole Russell Wilson narrative thing. And let's just try to bring them down to our level and try to survive a little bit. I think that's, again, you pointed out earlier, Andrew, when you have these guys that are healthy, they're typically running backs that have had health issions. You play them when they're healthy.
Yeah.
So I kind of
I'd probably go with Penny then there too.
All right. That'll probably wrap things up here for us. We're going to have a few more moments. We got more in here. Chris is saying, no, the show is so great. Keep going. He's right. Chris is correct here. He's also giving me other hand signals, which I'm not sure what this means. Now he's doing this, which I'm not sure what that means either. Chris, if you have something to say it in the chat. I'm getting to those things. All right, Chris. He's such a taskmaster. All right, let's get a couple more of these here. We've got Ben D wants to know, let's see, start 4, sit 2. All right, this is a lot, Andrew. You got your thinking cap on? You ready? Brandon Cooks, starting?
Yes.
Okay. Allen Robinson, starting?
Yes.
Sutton, you're obviously starting Sutton. I don't have to ask you that one.
Yes.
So that's 3. So that comes to Bateman, Waddle, or Tony for the last spot, unless you want to kick out Cooks or A-Rob. So Bateman, Waddle, Tony, pick one. It seems like Waddle's the safe one, right?
Yeah, I go with Waddle there.
Yeah, I would too. But look, this is a good problem to have.
Yeah.
I would also say when you have a team like this is another thing that came up in our stages last night on Discord. Somebody was asking us, they have all these options that were all kind of like this. I said to them, you know what you should do? You should package 2 of them and go get Mike Williams. Or 2 of them and go get somebody that you just leave every week. Because I feel like sometimes, Andrew, don't you feel like you get caught in this thing? Like, I don't want to be wrong. All these guys are really, upside guys or have like kind of the same potential. Whereas if you could just upgrade to that next level receiver by pairing 2 of these guys together in a trade, that makes life a lot easier, right?
2 ponies for a horse, baby.
2 ponies for a horse. I love that. Can we get that on a shirt at Fantasy Pros? 2 ponies for a horse. Let's do another one here. All in one show. Gabriel Davis or T. Higgins. How do you feel about this one, Erickson? Come on.
I think this one I'd probably still go with T. Higgins.
Ooh, I'm going to go Gabriel Davis. We can differ on that one here. Let's try Brian Kim, another one here. Cordero Patterson or Ramondre Stevenson in the flex here.
Go with Patterson.
Okay, that's interesting because I know you have a long love affair with Ramondre Stevenson. But see, the discipline. That's why I love Andrew Erickson. It's the discipline. He continues to stay here. Chase Edmonds or Breece Hall in the PPR. I think that's pretty easy. It's Edmonds, right?
Edmonds, yeah.
All right, hang in there you go. And I think that's pretty much what we've got here, Chris. Is there anything else that you'd like us to hit? No, he's saying he's giving big thumbs up.
Thumbs
now.
up, baby.
he's saying come back after the show's over. I've got another shot to give you. So that's I don't know what's in this one either, but it keeps me going for all of the shows. And you know what else keeps me going? It keeps me going all season long. It's my playbook. It's going to keep your season-long teams rocking and rolling. Go check it out at fantasypros.com or download the My Playbook app for Apple or your Android device. I'm telling you, you're talking about setting all your lineups at one spot. If you've got leagues at ESPN, leagues at Yahoo, leagues at CBS, right? And I know you do because you're a lunatic. That's why you're watching the show. My Playbook, you could set all those lineups just from there, just from that My Playbook app. It's so easy to do, not to mention all of the help with waiver wire, all of the help you can get in lots of other opportunities to evaluate trades, all the things that My Playbook offers within those tools. But go check it out if you haven't already. I'm telling you, I used it for all my teams last year. It was such a time saver, such a lifesaver. And I'm telling you, it's going to be one for you this year too. So check out that My Playbook app. And don't forget, go ahead, subscribe to Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. We are giving away that Keenan Allen jersey. Comment here on this stream. Subscribe to Fantasy Pros YouTube and click that little bell till it goes ding. And just like that, boom, the Keenan Allen jersey can be yours. It's glorious. It's beautiful. And it's signed by Keenan Allen. And it's from our friends at pristineauction.com. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on for Gabriel Davis, for Andrew Erickson. I'm Joey P. Enjoy the football tonight, kids.